*9 if you're participating via phone. Public comments are limited to 3 minutes. Please avoid repetition. The chair may, at her discretion, hold comments until the second public forum at the end of the meeting. Public comments submitted prior to 4 p.m. on the day of the meeting will be provided to the Planning Commission and added to the record, but will not be read during the live meeting. Any public input received after 4 p.m. on the day of the meeting will be included in the record, but may not reach the commission members before action is taken. Is there any public input? Being none, we will move forward to 4.1. Approval of the agenda.
That's 1.4.
1.4, thank you.
Commissioner Garvin, I would like to request to defer item 4.1 for next month to allow members who are not here to be present so they can be included in the discussion.
Can I get a motion on the change?
And Aaron Morrison, City Attorney, just very briefly, then that's a motion to approve the agenda with the removal of item 4.1.
That was just a motion to defer 4.1, but I can approve tonight's agenda with deferring to 4.1 to January.
Okay, that sounds good.
And I'll second that.
Item 1.5, possible action, approval of the minutes from last month's meeting. Need to make a motion? So I need a motion for approval of the minutes.
Commissioner Wagner, I'll move to approve last month's meeting minutes.
I second that motion.
Very good. Now please vote. Commissioner Garvin.
Thank you. Mr. Moritzen, do I abstain from voting since I wasn't here last month on last month's minutes?
Aaron Morrison, City Attorney, you should abstain from voting since you weren't here.
Okay, that passes 5-0 to 1 with one abstention. Item 2, staff reports with possible action. Discussion of possible action regarding TPM 25002, a tentative parcel request made from Richard DePoli dividing parcel 021-171-31 located in the mixed-use zoning district and containing approximately 70.59 acres into 3 resulting lots. The site is located south of Cottonwood Lane, west of Jill Murray Lane, north of the Truckee Canal, and east of Bridget Circle.
Good evening, Planning Commissioners. Elisa Johansson, Senior Planner for the record. Bear with me just a second. I'm waiting for my presentation. There we go. The request tonight is a tentative parcel map request. As noted, the site is approximately 70.59 acres in size. The site's present zoning district is mixed use, and there is a surrounding zoning pattern that's rather complicated. I'll show that to you on a future slide. Here you can see a vicinity map. The site is on the left-hand side. You can see where it's located within the city. And then on the right-hand side, you can see a snip from our zoning map. So you can see the surrounding zoning pattern is predominantly residential. Across the Truckee Canal, we do have some other zoning district types. And then the project site zone is highlighted there in purple, and the zoning district is mixed use. Here is a preliminary site plan. You can see that the property is proposed to be divided into 3 resulting parcels. Parcel 3 is presently developed with an existing single-family residence and some agricultural buildings. That development is proposed to remain. No further development is proposed on resulting parcels 1 or 2 at this time. So because no future development is proposed, the tentative parcel map analysis is ultimately relatively simple. We need to look at compliance with environmental and health laws, availability of water, availability and accessibility of utilities. We also need to analyze availability and accessibility of public services, consistency with the zoning district regulations for the site, conformity with the master streets and highways plan, which has been superseded by our master transportation plan, and also the effect of the proposed subdivision on existing public streets and the need for new streets or highways. Again, because there's no development proposed at this time, those needs are very low. Moving on, we also look at physical land characteristics, recommendations and comments of review bodies. We did not receive any meaningful comments for this review, except for a comment from TCID pertaining to excuse me, water rights that are pertinent to the subject site. That will be addressed prior to final map recordation. Same thing with conformity to the master sewer and water utility plan. Because no development is proposed, we don't need to conduct any further analysis of those elements. And then finally, compliance with the code and all other applicable regulations. We did analyze the proposed parcel map and found no apparent correction items. So I'll back up here just a little bit. As noted in the conditions of approval, and as the project has been designed, we anticipate that all applicable identified regulations will be met and that compliance will be achieved through this project. As I mentioned, the water rights that are pertinent to the subject site will be addressed prior to recordation of the final map. So something that's currently in progress between the applicant team and TCID, but not something that we need to address tonight before moving forward with the tentative map. Same thing for availability and accessibility of utilities. The site is an infill site. It's located within the developed community core. Although because there's no proposed development on the resulting 2 parcels and the existing development on the 3rd parcel is proposed to remain, we really don't need to look at utilities much further except to confirm that they are available in the immediate vicinity. Same thing for public services. Again, the site is an infill site located within the established community core where all of the mentioned services would be readily available as part of the existing service network. We did look at the zoning district regulations. The mixed use district has some pretty permissive dimensional standards, all of which are met with the resulting lots and their respective sizes. And again, as I mentioned earlier, the proposed maps effect on existing public streets and the need for new streets is essentially none because there is no additional proposed development. The existing portion of the site that is already developed would maintain existing access from Cottonwood Lane. And then finally, as I already said, we did not receive very many comments on this project. The one from TCID has been incorporated into the conditions of approval. The site is relatively flat. There are no identified floodplains mapped on the site, and we don't feel that there are any physical land characteristics that would affect the surrounding properties. Again, considering that this is nothing more than a tentative mapping effort at this stage. If you have any questions about the analysis, I'm happy to go into more detail. We do recommend approval for this project. Should you choose to deny, of course, please state the finding and the applicable rationale. If you would like to see any modifications to the conditions of approval, I would ask that you be very specific in that verbiage as well.
Very good. Thank you for your presentation. Any comments from the commission?
Just have a question, not relating directly to planning, but in a sale of properties, I believe you can put in there that it is subject to a parcel division coming through. Am I not right? This is real estate law, really, but if that was the case in a real estate agreement, planning wouldn't mention that at all because it's part of the sale agreement and not a part of a planning process, I believe. So if this was a subject because somebody was buying the property and they wanted to divide the property, we wouldn't know about it, right? Because it's not pertinent to planning business.
If I'm understanding your question correctly, you're asking if future potential sale of the property is part of our analysis when it comes to either entitlements or mapping?
Yeah.
That's correct. We sometimes get information about potential future sales. However, the intersection, the nexus of that potential with our approval criteria and review parameters is extremely limited. That sort of thing wouldn't typically be included in the conditions of approval. It's really not that pertinent to our process,
Right.
particularly in a case like this.
Okay, thank you much.
Any other comments from the commission?
We do not. This is not a public hearing. This is just a staff report asking for a motion.
Okay, can I get a motion?
Commissioner Garvin, considering the analysis presented in the staff report, I move to approve TPM 25002, dividing parcel 021-171-31 containing approximately 70.59 acres into 3 resulting lots.
Can I get a second?
I second that motion.
Very good. I have a first and a second. Let's vote. That item passes 6-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we don't need public input. Item 3.1, correct? Public hearing, because we didn't have to have that. 3.1, discussion and possible action on TSM 21003 EOT, an extension of time request of not more than 2 years to record a final subdivision map for Green Valley Ranch Phase 6, a 54 single-family residential subdivision on a site with approximately plus or minus 11.4 acres in general size, located in the SF single-family minimum 6,000 square foot lot zone. Zoning district generally located at the intersection of Canal Drive, Green Valley Drive, and Jasper Way. APN 021-191-09.
Good evening, Planning Commissioners. Lisa Warner, Assistant Planner for the record. Uh-oh. Yeah. Oh, there, it made a little beep. There we go. That thing hates me. All right, so the background on this application, the purpose of the extension of time request is to allow the developer an additional 2 years to record their final subdivision map. The tentative subdivision map was approved by City Council on December 15th, 2021, and is set to expire on December 15th, 2025. The site's under the ownership of Lucas Green Valley LLC, which was started by Mr. Stan Lucas, who passed away in early 2025. Per the trust of Mr. Lucas, all assets must be liquidated, and his trust is currently working through the trust process, which takes time, and they are currently in negotiations with a prospective buyer who's interested in continuing the project as it was already approved, but that will be determined down the road. So this is the vicinity map. And as we already discussed, it's at the intersection of Canal Drive, Green Valley Drive, and Jasper Way. There's another colorful site plan of it. So the analysis on this project is, the project is a 54-lot, single-family residential subdivision. It's located on 11.14 acres. The parcel is zoned SF6, single-family minimum 6,000 square foot lots. It also has a land designation of SF6, and it's consistent with the city's master plan and the city's municipal code. I have a recommended motion and an alternative motion, but before that, are there any questions?
Commissioner Wagner.
This might be a kind of complicated question, so I apologize. In the letter, it states that Mr. Lucas's intention was to sell this area with proceeds going to charity. Now, it also states that they are looking to sell to someone who intends to develop this in the next 2 years. How does that work? Would a charity be coming in to develop this, or would the charity then sell to a different developer? Do we know the details there?
I honestly don't have any details on that, just the details that were in the letter.
Okay.
I think basically what they're trying to do is they're asking for the 2 years because they need to finish settling the estate with whatever the state has said needs to be done.
Okay.
And Aaron
But-
Morrison, city attorney, I'd add that as I read it, it would be that the property would be sold and then the proceeds would go to charity, not that it'd be sold to a charity.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Any other questions?
That being no, I guess I'll call for a motion. Commissioner Flores? Oh,
Public comment.
is there anybody that wants to speak on this particular subject here? Is there anybody on Zoom? Okay. So I will call for a motion.
I will do the motion.
Commissioner Flores,
Okay. I move to approve a 3-month extension of time for the completion of landscaping installation requirements associated with WVR 24. Oh,
Yeah, that's the.
change that. Okay, which one is it? Well, let's pick on somebody else because until I find it.
okay, Commissioner Williams,
I move to approve a 2-year extension of time for the tentative subdivision map associated with TSM 21003 dash Green Valley Ranch Phase 6. The expiration date will be extended to December 15th, 2027.
can I get a second?
Commissioner
Garvin?
Garvin, I second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Let's vote. That item passes 6-0. Moving on, item 3.2 for possible action. Consideration and possible action on WVR 24002, a request by Battleborn Equity Group to extend the landscaping deadline imposed on the original waiver approval by the Planning Commission for an additional 3 months, November 13th, 2025 to February 13th of 2026.
All right, the background on this is the waiver for the previously known Pizza Shack building was approved by the Planning Commission on November 13th, 2024. The waiver approval was conditioned to have the approved landscaping installed by November 13th, 2025. The applicant submitted a landscaping plan on October 28th, 2025, which was approved by staff. Then the applicant requested an extension of time for the landscaping installation due to scheduling constraints with the contractor and certified landscapers and irrigation crews. And they wanted time to make adjustments or to require the coordination of installation of ongoing site work, and then, of course, seasonal planting windows. This is a site plan of the Pizza Shack. This is a site plan. It's kind of a busy site plan, but they're basically putting a planter out in the front where the Pizza Shack sign is. They already have done that. I'm sure you guys have probably driven by there. There's going to be some shrubs in front of the horseshoe pits and then some shrubs around the back where they have the patio cover and outdoor seating. Since the extension of time request was received prior to the landscaping installation deadline, of November 13th, 2025. The extension of time request is consistent with both the city's master plan and the city's municipal code. And then, are there any questions?
Commissioner Gervin?
Well, since we're a month from their deadline and they're already doing work on it, what is, so basically they have 2 months from now.
Mhm. They had to request the extension before the deadline of November 13th, and the deadline to get on planning commission for November was already closed. That's why it didn't come to you guys until this month.
And they only wanted 3 months?
They only wanted 3 months. They're not really doing a whole lot, and I think the biggest part of it is that planting island out in the front, and they already have the concrete done. It looks like it just needs to be planted.
Yeah, we were just there like just this past week and yeah, they're doing some work, so.
And then
it's
they
good.
also, I know they have the irrigation in too, because I saw where they were in the ground putting in the irrigation. So I think those were probably the two most difficult things.
Well, that's why I would have asked for maybe a little bit more because I know weather is going to come into play here hopefully pretty soon. So, and laying concrete and doing all that might hinder plans, but if that's all they wanted.
Any other questions?
No? Okay. Anybody here, they would like to speak on this comment? Present? Anybody on Zoom? Can I get a motion on this item? Commissioner Wagner?
I move to approve a 3-month extension of time for the completion of the landscaping installation requirements associated with WVR 24002. The new completion date will be February 13th, 2026.
A second?
Okay. I move,
Commissioner Flores?
I second that motion.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Please vote. That item passes 6-0. Item 3.2 for possible action, consideration and possible action on WRV. Oh, no, that's not the next one. Sorry, I just did it backwards. 3.3, excuse me, for possible action. Discussion and possible action on conditional use permit CUP 25003, a request by Leslie Colbress, Community Service Agency, to allow a child care facility within an existing plus or minus 6,887 square foot tenant space located at 95 Main Street, APN 020-034-02 in the C2 General Commercial Zoning District.
Good evening, Vice Chair and members of the Planning Commission. Tristan Rodriguez, Associate Planner for the record. Item 3.3 before you this evening is CUP 25003 Fernley Daycare. And is it a request to, it's a conditional use permit request to establish a licensed child care facility at 95 Main Street. The request before you is a proposal to establish a licensed child care facility within an existing plus or minus 6,887 square foot tenant space located in, tenant space located in a multi-tenant commercial center along Main Street. The project also includes construction of a plus or minus 1,380 square foot outdoor play area to the southwest of the building. The facility will operate Monday through Friday from 7:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. with occasional evening meetings. The use is allowed in the C2 zoning district with approval of a conditional use permit. The site is located at 95 Main Street within an established commercial corridor that includes a mix of retail and service-oriented uses. The property is zoned C2 General Commercial, and the surrounding zoning consists of C2 and MF30 to the west, C2 and C1 to the east, and open space and parks to the south. In the south, the site is fully served by existing roadway, water, and sewer infrastructure and is designated suburban mixed use under the city's comprehensive master plan. The proposal represents infill redevelopment by reusing a vacant commercial suite. No new building additions are proposed. A fenced outdoor play area will be located at the southwest corner of the site. 6 existing parking spaces adjacent to the entrance will be designated as pickup and drop-off only. Parents will escort children into the building, ensuring safe circulation and preventing children from entering or exiting independently. Directional signage and drive aisle circulation are already established. Shown here is the tenant improvement layout, which reflects the interior modifications proposed by the applicant. All improvements will be reviewed in detail at time of building permit. Staff reviewed the request against the required findings for a conditional use permit, and all 6 findings can be met. The proposal is consistent with the comprehensive master plan, compatible with adjacent commercial uses, and will operate safely within a fully developed site. There are no impacts to natural resources or housing availability, and all potential impacts have been appropriately conditioned, with condition number 12 proposed to ensure the fencing meets safety requirements. Public notice was provided in accordance with FMC and NRS, and tonight's hearing satisfies those requirements. The only project-specific condition is condition number 12, which addresses the outdoor play area fencing. The condition requires a 3-foot, 4-inch split-face CMU wall with a 2-foot, 8-inch chain link fence on top, including colored vinyl slat inserts for a total height of approximately 6 feet. The intent is to ensure durability and safety along the adjacent street. Based on the findings and analysis presented, staff recommends approval of CUP 25003 Fernley Daycare, subject to conditions of approval 1 through 12. The recommended motion is on the screen.
Any comments from Commissioner Garvin?
Isn't there a bar restaurant in this same location?
There is a retail alcohol sales place
Yes.
adjacent to the China Chef.
And then Kitty Corner is Guadalajara that also has a bar, and then Wigwam what is the statute for how far away a daycare can be from a bar? Like,
Gotcha.
and if it's an actual facility that serves alcohol to people.
Gotcha. I'm going to defer that question to legal. There is nothing within our use-specific standards for a child care facility that call out any of those distance requirements.
Aaron Morrison, City Attorney, as is stated, there's nothing in our code that indicates any sort of restrictions. I'll go ahead and take a look at the NRS right now and let you know if I see anything there.
Yeah, I looked at NRS to see how far away a casino could be, and it looks like there's at least a 1,500-foot distance between a casino and, let's say, a school or a daycare, with some provisions where if it's across the street or what have you. But I'm concerned that, little children are going to be coming in and out with people serving alcohol almost right next door. So.
Absolutely. And perhaps the applicant is here and can address any additional questions that the body may have. But that concludes my presentation, and I'm available for questions. And the applicant is here as well.
Aaron Morrison, City Attorney, and reviewing the NRS, there's no requirement in the NRS. Some cities in Nevada have adopted buffer zones, but the city of Fernley does not have any required buffer zone. The city of Henderson, for example, has a 200-foot buffer zone.
Any other questions from the commission? That being none. Public input. You have one taker.
This is the applicant.
No.
Thank you, Planning Commissioners. I'm Leslie Colbreeze. I'm the CEO for Community Services Agency. A couple things just wanted to add. First of all, it actually is going to be an early head start. We have to get a child care license because of the state requirements with Head Start, so we have to meet both requirements. with the federal government as well as the state. Understanding the concern about the packaged liquor that's next door, we certainly discussed that. There's not a lot of opportunity to expand services, especially to little babies in the city of Fernley. I actually reside here, even though I work in Reno, and been looking for facilities because we were one of the only in Region 9, which includes 5 other states, that received expansion dollars from the federal government a couple of years ago to be expanding to Fernley. We do currently offer Head Start that is at the Cottonwood Elementary School. But we wanted to obviously provide more infant care because it's certainly needed, especially in the rural areas like Fernley. One of the things that I did want to mention is also, I know one of the concerns that staff had mentioned, and by the way, your staff are amazing. They've been really, really great to work with. So I thank them all. Was the actual physical structure of the fencing. I completely understand the security and the safety of the children. That is our number one, certainly number one goal. However, there's some limitations with our funding. And because we don't own this building, there's also limitations around that. So I'd ask for consideration of pillars or ballards to be put in place of, basically all of the fence posts would be ballards, cement ballards or pillars to ensure that a car could not hit it. This allows for what I call temporary fencing, which is chain link. Will make it obviously very nice and attractive, but it also gives a visual to children being boxed in an outdoor space like that, because it's along the building, can cause some challenges because we'd like them to have outdoor space, as well as it doesn't limit me to having a permanent structure, both from the owner as well as from our funding source. So there is some contention around that in regards to whether or not this can go through based on that, depending upon the amount of money that we place into this building. We're trying to make it very attractive, of course. We've been doing this since 1965. And like I said, we've been in Fernley and enjoy the opportunity to provide more services. Thank you for your time.
Commissioner Wagner.
Can we ask questions? Sorry.
Of course, I'm sorry.
What are the ages of the children you'll be servicing there?
It'll be 0 to 3.
Okay. So probably mostly indoor. I know you have some outdoor area there. And then the concern about the liquor, I believe it's at least four units down. Is that correct? It's not next door.
That's correct.
Okay.
And the wigwam is actually a block over. So it's actually not, it's really a block away from the wigwam because again, we looked at that.
And Aaron Mortson, City Attorney, I just wanted to briefly add, I did look at the NAC as well. There's a section of the NAC that requires that any facility like this be there be a physical barrier between them and any alcohol facility, and also that the sale of alcohol be obscured from that facility. In this case, I think both of those are complied with. Either way, those would be the requirements, I believe, of the Board of Child Care to review and make sure that NAC is complied with.
Thank you. I apologize. I forgot to mention because we have to get licensed. We still have to go through a process with that, which also they have exclusions as well. So we have to make sure that we meet that licensing. So again, I apologize. Thank you for your time.
Any other comments? from the
Yes.
Commission? Commissioner Urban.
So this looks like is the space that's next to where I'm gonna say it's where that thrift shop is, or was in that space? Is the office area, is that where the salon was or is this next to the salon?
If I can get my presentation pulled up again, I can show the tenant improvement plan, which shows the different tenant spots.
Well, I'm looking at what's in the package, so which I think is in the presentation.
Gotcha. Well, mine, or I meant to say the site plan that indicates the pickup and drop off areas. I'm not sure if that was in the package, but on my presentation, you can see the different tenant spots. There we go. So that shaded area, if you will, is the space that is being taken up by
Okay.
the childcare area. I believe China Chef, or
China Chef is on the other
the very
ends.
ends, and I believe there's maybe 1 or 2 tenant spaces before you get to that alcohol sales establishment.
Right. So, and I think there's that Salon 95 is next door.
Yes, yes.
I'm just gonna say, as somebody who used to go there, they serve alcohol. They just don't charge for it. Or at least they did. So we might want to check that out.
Any other comments from the commission? Okay, Commissioner Holt?
It's not really directly related to this project itself. It's more this center that, is there any future thought or discussion around the ingress and egress here because of the way 95 backs up and when people turn in and then they make that immediate, it just backs up and it always seems like there's about to be an accident there. So continuing to bring in more vehicles and everything could, I know it's been occupied before. I'm just wondering, is that at all a topic of discussion at this point with the city of being a point of contention that it doesn't work well and maybe ingress and egress here should be somewhere else? Or set back further from the intersection?
These roads are governed by NDOT.
So there's really nothing that can be changed with how they operate. They're just less efficient. Thank you.
Any public input on this matter? Anybody on Zoom? Okay, I will call for a motion. Commissioner Flores?
More mistakes. Based on the information provided in the staff report and as presented in the staff presentation, I move to approve the conditional use permit associated with CUP 25003 Fernley Daycare, subject to the conditions of approval 1 through 12 as presented by staff.
Can I get a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. You'll need to please vote. That item passes 5-1. Next item, 3.4. Make sure, is this the right one? Yeah. 3.4, discussion and possible action regarding CA 2007 and bill number 373. A request from the planning department and city manager's office to amend the definitions. Use table entries, use standards and parking supply requirements for the animal services land as contained in Fernley Municipal Code. Title 32, chapters 2, 6, 7, and 9, FMC 32-02-030, FMC 32.06.150, Table 2, FMC 32.07.060, and FMC 32.09.12, table number 2. That was a mouthful.
Good evening again, Planning Commissioners. Elisa Johansson, Senior Planner for the record. This presentation is a little lengthy. I'll apologize in advance. We have a lot of ground to cover. This amendment represents a holistic overhaul of the animal services land use in our code. So as Commissioner Lewis mentioned, this covers the definitions, the use table entries, the use standards, and the parking supply requirements. So really everything related to this use. So first, a little bit of background. Why are these changes needed? The current regulations as they stand today are rather inflexible. Because of that inflexibility, they fail to provide the community with much needed services, including perhaps most importantly, impoundment, daycare, boarding, and more. And in evaluating opportunities to add flexibility into the code, we discovered that additional work was needed. And so that resulted in this, as I mentioned, holistic overhaul. Our methodology, as I've mentioned before in previous development code amendment proposals, includes research and evaluation of regionally relevant jurisdictions and how they promulgate codes related to this type of use. And then we also conducted significant in-house consultation with animal control staff and legal counsel. Okay, so what are the proposed updates? We propose to update the definitions for animal services by breaking that use into 4 distinct types. We removed the indoor, outdoor, overnight components from the definitions, which gives them all greater flexibility. And we added a 5th defined accessory component that does include that outdoor component. On the screen in the lower portion of the slide, you'll see a snip from the existing code that really only talks about 2 different animal service uses, indoor and overnight and/or outdoor. So very, very restrictive. What we landed on, as I mentioned, 4 distinct types plus a 5th accessory use. Those resulting definitions provide additional clarity, reduce overlap, and provide additional flexibility. So at the nexus of clarity, reduced overlap, and additional flexibility, we as staff are given the ability to enforce these codes more easily. Each of the uses can be regulated more efficiently in the various zoning districts where we'd like to concentrate them. And so on the screen, you'll see the 4 definitions that we've developed, and the 5th outdoor confinement play being that accessory use that I mentioned. Moving on, the next step would be to update the allowances for these uses in the city's use table. So adding new rows and new cell entries for each of these uses, consistent with what we felt was the most appropriate application and location for these uses. I'll give you a minute to digest that. We can come back to this if you have specific questions about the entitlements required for each. Moving on to the use standards. This is perhaps what originally initiated this effort, but it became, as we move forward, it became only one piece of the greater whole. As you can see, the animal service use standards were relatively simple, but extremely restrictive. If you look at A, which is highlighted, you'll see that animal boarding and daycare were previously permitted only as part of a veterinary clinic and only to the extent that it was part of medical care. So by requiring those very sort of general and useful services to be part of a veterinary clinic, we essentially prevented the community from taking advantage of those uses and services because a veterinary clinic would have to be included in the proposal. So we removed that requirement entirely, and we focused on operational standards that would be applicable to all of the 4 defined uses. So pretty basic stuff. Solid waste collection service is a requirement for any commercial animal service use. We want to have a 10-foot separation between feeding and relief areas. This is something we got from our wonderful code enforcement program manager. And then provision of animal bedding when the floors of the confinement areas are hard surface. Some pretty basic quality of life stuff that we feel should be standard for these uses. Moving on, because we do know that outdoor animal confinement or play areas are desirable both for these types of business operators, but also the element that could provide the most adverse impacts to adjoining properties. We developed a series of standards that would help address those compatibility concerns and also added in some quality of life elements as well. For example, animals shall have access to an area sheltered from adverse climatic conditions at all times. Outdoor confinement and play areas must be located at least 500 feet from any surrounding residential lots. We have some standards related to view and auditory screening, so opaque fencing around those outdoor areas. And then we also add a stipulation for noise and give ourselves the opportunity to ask for a noise impact study if we feel that would be appropriate in order to help us develop appropriate conditions of approval depending on the project specifics. Finally, we updated the parking requirements for these uses. Something that we heard in our in-house consultation was that the parking supply requirements for these uses were generally insufficient and did not result in sufficient parking for these types of projects. So we scaled back the per square footage count and also added some additional, an additional layer for employee parking. And we can come back to this as well if you have further questions. So moving on to the analysis itself, we've got two criteria that must be met. The first is that the development code text amendment must be consistent with the city's master plan and otherwise consistent with state and federal law. These proposed changes are consistent with the master plan's goal of land use compatibility, preventing and mitigating adverse impacts, encouraging development that can be efficiently served by services and infrastructure. The master plan's goal of effective growth management is met through this effort, and this amendment also helps provide robust and complementary community services, another goal in the master plan. The second criterion requires that we conduct public notice and hold a public hearing. We did publish a legal advertisement in the Reno Gazette Journal earlier this month, and tonight's public hearing satisfies the first requirement for a public hearing. When we go to City Council, we will also conduct additional public notice and schedule an additional public hearing. Before we move on to the motions, does anyone have any questions?
Commissioner Flores?
Yeah, I presume that this is a equine holding does not fall into this purview, because I know that some people have I've seen that you can have a communal what do you call it, where you hold covered horse covering for sometimes people are on vacation for a lot and they leave their horses there, but I don't think this covers it. Maybe
The
I'm wrong.
definition as written specifically refers to domestic animals, and I believe horses are classified in our code as livestock. Michelle,
Oh.
am I right about that?
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the commission? Commissioner Wagner?
I think it feels like these are good changes, so I'm fully supportive. It seems like a business development idea that would have a lot of people interested. Have the changes kind of been compared to like City of Sparks, City of Reno code? Are they similar to what those jurisdictions require?
We did look at those jurisdictions as well as other regionally relevant jurisdictions sort of in our immediate vicinity. And we did pull some ideas from those jurisdictions, but we did not do like a direct lift.
Okay.
We wrote our own code this time around based on the various expertise that we have within the planning department. We also consulted extensively with our animal control program manager, and she helped a lot with what she thought would be most beneficial and, gave us a lot of really great insight into how these businesses actually operate. And that is the result of our efforts.
Okay.
But yes, to answer your question, they are comparable.
Thank you.
Commissioner Garvin?
One thing I don't see is the number of animals per animal service
Yes.
that one establishment can have.
Yes, we did discuss that, and we kicked around a number of different ways to manage what we in our work group called animal density. From the standpoint of how many animals a facility can reasonably manage, that density would be regulated in other places. So it's either regulated by NRS or NAC. And so we felt that it was unnecessary for us to add additional stipulations or to mirror those stipulations in our development code. What we're really looking at is land use compatibility and appropriateness based on zoning district. And so we left things like enclosure sizes and minimum, comfortable square footage per animal to the existing laws that already exist. We did not choose to replicate those in our code. And we chose not to do that for a number of reasons, because if we did amend our code with specific references to dimensional standards that may be altered at the state level, that would then require further amendments on our side. Basically, what I'm trying to get at is that it's easier to let those state level regulations bear the burden of stipulating those types of requirements. And so our development regulations kind of provide the other half of it, the land use compatibility aspect that isn't really considered by the state.
So would it be something to consider to add that type of verbiage to say the number, based on state laws or wherever these laws, wherever the other area is, to say the number of animals based on the square footage of, the facility, or, whether it be outside or inside, refer to this area, so that there's no, the thing I don't want to get into is, as planning commission, we're looking at, okay, the zoning, the actual facility, does it match here and there, whatever. But if they're planning on bringing in like 100 dogs, let's just say, in an 800 square foot, office building, that doesn't make sense. So if there's something in there to say, this should comply with such and such law, which is described elsewhere, even if it happens to change, it would still refer to that same. You see what I'm saying?
Yes, I do understand what you're saying. We chose not to do that, again, for one reason, because that is not typically a reference that exists in these codes. So in our research of adjoining jurisdictions, we didn't find those references. We don't have those references in our code as it stands today. And in consultation with our animal control program manager, she felt that repeating those codes would be unnecessary and duplicative in a way that might not get us the results that we're looking for. Now, in terms of the outdoor areas and how to manage the total number of animals that are outside, we did discuss that quite extensively within our work group. Actually, we thought about, doing a maximum percentage of the lot could be devoted to outdoor play areas, total number of animals outside at any one time. We talked about all of those things and ultimately felt that the locational criteria that we had placed in the code and the requirements for distance from residentially zoned or or lots with residential uses established would be sufficient in controlling that potential adverse impact.
Okay, thank you.
I just wanted to support what Commissioner Garvin was saying. An idea maybe is during the business licensing portion with the clerk's office that we include references to NRS and NIC laws that govern this type of business, just because I could see that sort of thing getting lost in the opening of a business. You kind of don't know all the laws that are out there. So just a suggestion that maybe on the clerk side, instead of through our code, we can address that.
Okay, noted.
Any other comments or questions from commission? Be it none?
This is a public
Go ahead.
hearing, so we'll open for public comment. I do want to say that the planning department would like to hear an approval tonight, a recommendation of approval. If you choose to deny or modify, of course, your modifications are welcome, but please specifically state the modification that you desire as well as your supporting rationale. And I will leave it to any potential public comment.
Very good, thank you. Again, reaching out, is there any public comment? Anybody on Zoom? Nope, okay, look. Commissioner Holt.
Considering the information provided by staff presentations and in the staff report, I move to recommend that the city council approve bill number 373 associated with CA 25007, amending the definitions, use tables, entries, use standards, and parking supply requirements for the animal services land uses, FMC 32.02.030, FMC 32.06.150, Table 2, FMC 32.07.060, and FMC 3209120, Table 2.
I have a motion. I need a second.
I'll second.
Commissioner Williams, second. Now we'll go to a vote. That item passes 6-0. Item 3.5 for parcel action. Discussion and possible action to recommend approval of bill number 174 associated with CA 25008 to amend section 32.06.070 of the Fernley Development Code to amend table 070-1 residential single-family dentistry intensity standards to remove the 20-foot side combined setback for the CF zone and make minor grammatical corrections to the selection as a whole.
Good evening again, Planning Commission. Lisa Warner, Assistant Planner for the record. The background is developers and builders on various subdivision projects claim that the development code for SF6 single-family residential minimum 6,000 square feet lot size is very restrictive. They're requesting that the 20 feet side combined setback for SF6 zones be removed and make the development standards less restrictive. This will give developers and builders more options in the placement of single-family residences on SF6 lots, and it will also give them the option to have larger single-family homes on SF6 lots. This is the table that shows the setbacks for SF20 down through SF6. The only change on this, it previously had a 20-foot side combined setback under SF6, and we have just removed that. They will still have to have a 5-foot setback on each side, but we just took away the side combined of 20 feet. In the other single-family standards section, we just changed minor grammatical corrections. And this met the findings for the master plan. As it doesn't specifically address development standards, the proposed code amendment does not violate the master plan requirement. And finding number 2, a public notice was put in the Reno Gazette Journal, and the public hearing will be held tonight at Planning Commission. And then as well, a public hearing will be held at the city council meetings. The planning staff recommends that you approve Bill 174 as presented by staff. And I noticed that says city council, but that you recommend that city council approve Bill 174. Do you guys have any questions?
Commissioner Flores?
Yeah, I know that these SF6s are usually 2-story buildings, I do believe, for the most part. It's just more efficient to do it that way, I think. So the question I have is, because you're shrinking the side requirement, doesn't that mean that the parking in front is being shrunk also?
I wouldn't say most of them are all two-story. There's a lot of SF6 within the city where they're single-story homes.
Okay.
What they've been doing is to meet that 20-foot setback, they would have like 10 feet on one side, 10 feet on the other side. But this is just going to require them to do the 5 feet and the 5 feet.
Okay, but I foresee an impact on parking because that'll determine the frontage, won't it?
The lot will still be 6,000 feet. It's not shrinking the lot. It's
Oh.
just shrinking the setback that's required from
Okay.
the lot line to the actual residence.
All right, that's what I need to know. Thank you.
Commissioner Wagner?
So moving this to 5 feet, that means 5 feet per lot. So two structures could be 10 feet apart. Is that right?
Correct. It would be 5 feet on each side
It
of
just-
each separate single-family residence. So
I
it
know
could potentially be
yeah.
10 feet, 10 feet
6,000
in
square-
between one and 10 feet, and 10 feet total, 5 feet and 5 feet.
6,000 square foot lots are small, and I realize that it just seems like 10 feet apart is really, really tight. Are there any like fire regulations that guide this? Is 5 foot the absolute minimum?
Not as far as I know. Don't
Yes,
defer that to
actually,
Michelle.
Michelle Rambo, Planning Director. Yes, the fire requirement is 5 feet from setback and 10 feet between buildings. So this would still maintain fire requirements.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments? We'll see if there's any public comment here today. Anybody via Zoom? Okay, I'm looking for a motion. Commissioner Garvin,
I move to recommend that the city council approve bill number 174 associated with CA 25008 as presented by staff.
I'll second.
Commissioner Williams. We have a motion and a second. Now we'll vote.
I didn't get my pop-up, but I approve.
That item passes 6-0. Item number 4 is going to be delayed until our next planning commission meeting. So we'll move directly on to item number 5, planning director items, activity summary or updates on projects.
Okay, update on council items, November 19th, we did not have anything on the council agenda. So nothing to report on that. December 3rd, we had, Commissioners Williams and Vanderheiden were reappointed for another 4 years. And then we had the first reading for that annexation for Mark IV, up at the northeast corner of town. So, and that was it for the December meetings, December 3rd meeting, sorry. As far as the general planning department updates, we've got a lot going on at the moment. We have officially now kicked off the infrastructure plans for the north and the southwest areas, the capital improvement plan and the impact fee study, and the south area plan. We just had our first meeting for the South Area Plan today, so it's officially in the works. We do plan to have some joint Planning Commission Council workshops on January 21st. So if you want to keep that day, I think we've got them scheduled for 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, and 1, maybe. And you'll be contacted about that to schedule your individual time that is good for you. And then we are scheduled for a public open house on January 22nd at 5:30 at the CRRC. So those will be coming down the pike. As far as the master plan update is concerned, we have chosen a consultant for that, and the contract is on the council agenda for next week to be approved. After that gets approved, we will officially get that underway as well. Like I said, we've got all those, which is our long range planning, and then in terms of development projects, we're keeping pretty busy. We've got 8 new applications this month, or sorry, November. And then we had, which is about the same as we had in October. So keeping pretty consistent and keeping busy. That's all I have, unless you have questions.
Any questions for staff? Okay, Commissioner Garvin.
Only because I'm nosy and curious, because I've been waiting for them to come back onto the city council agenda, but for Wood Rogers and that project over on Winnie's,
Mhm.
is that ever coming back, or it is?
It is. We've had some conversations with them and some alternate ways they can handle some of the drainage. So they will be probably February timeframe coming back to council.
Okay.
Very good. Item number 6, any requests for any future agenda items from council? Commissioner Wagner.
So thank you, commissioners, for making this meeting go fast. I read an article in the Fernley Reporter, and now I'm looking at an article on Carson Now. Mark IV went to our county commission and did a big presentation about data centers, about potentially building a modular gas-fired power plant here in city limits, where they're quoted at saying it'll begin at 250 megawatts and potentially build its way up to 1.8 gigawatts of power. Nearly a similar power load to all of Reno, Sparks, and Washoe County. I don't think we've heard a presentation about that. I don't think our city council has heard a presentation
No,
about
that was done at the Lyon County
Correct.
Commissioners meeting. We have not. They haven't talked to us about any of that.
So I guess my concern is that the process is not being including the city of Fernley right now, and this is where that power station is being talked about openly. And as far as I know, in our development code and our master plan, we do not have a plan to build a power plant here in city limits. So,
But well, we have the code does allow for a power generation
Okay.
in the city with a conditional use permit, but we haven't gotten any application from them for anything yet.
And Aaron Mortson, city attorney, just for open meeting law purposes, I think we can ask for a future agenda item to discuss this, but we
Yeah.
can't get into it too much.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that would be my request is maybe even beyond an agenda item for us, like a community workshop to understand what is going on. I have huge concerns and issues with this even being talked about openly. So maybe fellow commissioners do as well, but I really want to jump in front of this data center power generation business.
Very good. I would agree with Commissioner Wagner. I don't want to see a power plant here.
So just to clarify, you would like a presentation from Mark IV?
I think that would be a good place to start.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, any other comments? Nope. Okay, public hearing. This is the portion of the meeting devoted to the public. If you wish to comment, you can do so in person at the meeting or use the raise your hand feature in Zoom. *9 if you are participating via phone. Public comments are limited to 3 minutes. Please avoid repetition. Is there any public input or comment? Please step up to the podium, write your name on the sheet provided. Is there anybody on Zoom? Kim's gone, so I would assume no. No? Okay, there she is. Next meeting of the Fernley City Planning Commission is January 14th, 2026 at 5 p.m. Meeting is adjourned.